Hi, welcome to Big Sexy Chat. I'm Crystal.
I'm Murph.
We're just two rad fatties sitting around
Chewing the fat.
Twice a month we'll be chatting about current events,
Hot topics,
sex toys, fat politics, fat community, cannabis, CBD, you name it, we're going to talk about it. We are very excited to have you a part of our community. Welcome and enjoy. Hey, welcome to Big Sexy Chat. We're so excited to have you. My name is Crystal.
I'm Murph.
And we have a wonderful guest. We have Tawana Blassingame, who is the creator or co-creator of the Full Figure Industry Awards, but also the creator of Queen Size magazine since 2011. And we're so excited to have Tawana here to tell us all about the industry awards, the industry, the magazine, all the good stuff that she's doing that's around fat liberation, fashion, and fun. Welcome, Tawana.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
So we have so many questions, but we'll try to, keep them as many as we can in the time allotted. So first, what made you want to start the Full Figure Industry Awards?
It all came from me watching, mainstream award shows and, continuously asking myself, like, why don't we have something like that for our industry? There's so many talented people in our industry. Like, why doesn't something like that exist for us? Or why are we not even included in the other awards? So, like the story goes, if it doesn't exist, then you built it, right? So that was really the reason why I started it, really, because I feel like so many talented individuals are unseen, unrecognized.
Absolutely. And I think about how many award shows that there are and how many categories. And you're right. Our industry is really left out. The only time I can think of where it's truly considered is like the AVN Awards. And I think they took that away at one point. So it's like, come on. There's, like you said, there's so many people in so many categories. I'm sure you could probably even come up with more categories than you've got.
Right. Of course I can. We really dialed back from year one because we had over 20 categories the first year. And that was a long show. It was good, but it was a long show. So, we had to kind of dial back and create fewer categories in a shorter show.
Totally understand. Well, speaking of that, so how long has the awards been happening?
So we are going into our 5th year of production. November 4th will make our 5th year.
5th year. Wow. So ultimately, long-term goal, where do you see this going?
Oh, I see us sitting next to mainstream. I want to be a part of the mainstream award season. That's where I want to be.
I could just see I think of the awards, with the e-news and the, all that kind of stuff, having our own little group of folks interviewing people and having them walk by and,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I would love that. Yeah. Crystal, what would you like to say?
First of all, we are so honored to be nominated. Our podcast nominated. We're beyond excited. It's not even the right word, but I wanted to know, when did podcasting get added to the lineup of things that you are awarding, or was it always on there?
It's always been on from the first year. Always. There's a lot of podcasts that are focused on the plus industry. So it was, and I know a lot of podcasters personally that have this. So it was like, I couldn't leave them out. So it was always there.
Yeah. It seems like podcasting really has its own built-in audience, and so
Yes.
I think of especially with our group, our community, it's just I've seen so many folks reaching out and I've been looking for another plus size podcast. I already listened to, and they'll name a bunch of them. And I'm just absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
It seems like there's a lot of community built around the just talking and sharing our experiences.
Yep. And I love podcasts. So I'm every now and again, because, some people stop and the new ones come up that you may not know about. So every once and again, I'll just put a post out, what new podcasts are there, and just start listening to some. I love podcasts. I love them. And it may be because I used to do podcasts. So I still have that love for it, and I want to go back to podcasting, but it just doesn't fit into my schedule.
What did you podcast about?
So I had a podcast for 5 years, and this was before the magazine. It was called Girl Can We Talk? And so it was just about everything, anything, whatever the hot topic was for the day, that's what we talked about.
That's awesome.
Very cool. I see in the past, a couple of our friends have been nominated or have won, like Marie, the curvy fashionista. She and I go way back because I used to have a boutique called Curvy Girl. And we were going to make a TV show together, but then that's a long story. And then also Marcy Cruz was past recipient. And then I saw the Chubster, I think they were nominated for blogging or something. I can't remember what his category was.
So Bruce is nominated for blogger. Last year they won podcast.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, his podcast is sensational. I love it. We're in really good company, Murph. And if you knew, do you know who Marie is from the Curvy Fashionista, Murph?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Well, and just like even all the folks that were nominated, like Jen, like Plus Mommy, like, it was just a great list of people. And I was like, heck yeah, it feels amazing to be in the same category as these people.
And you know what's so funny is, and this is what a lot of people say. A lot of people say, well, who nominated me? Like, who listens to me or who watches me? And the funny thing, you don't know how, you will never know. You never know. I mean, because the nominations that come in, and that's when I get to learn a lot of new people as well. Because I'll be like, oh, who's this person nominated? And then I have to look them up and find out who they are. And then, I love them. Follow. Yeah.
That seems like a really great way to build community, just in the sense of like, you could have like a whole list. I'm sure that, we can go back to previous award shows and just see all the categories, and people could be filling their feed with all these folks.
Yep.
I mean, that's incredible. I love it.
It's really good for your self-esteem too, if you follow more fat creators.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious what other award programs you think should involve fat categories. Like, give me some examples.
I'm okay with being the only one, but but I mean, if you want to be included in more, I definitely think that, first of all of them, every single last one of them, right? Because if you look at, the BET Awards, right? So there are, first, she started out as a model. She's an actress now, right? She's killing it on BET, right? I look at, she's on Sisters, and she's on another show that I haven't watched yet, but I watched Sisters faithfully, and Zinga's on there. So, hello, why isn't she included in that? So I think all of them. I mean, if you look at even, the Stella Awards, how many plus size gospel singers are there? I think we should all be included. And it does not necessarily have to be a plus size best singer or something like that. But, I too want to see some more bigger bodies in these categories.
I always watch the mainstream shows and then watch for plus size people. So I
think we all do that. Honey.
Yeah, and then like write a blog or something about it. Like, hey, a fat person was at the Oscars.
I love to watch the red carpet movements, right? And I mostly watch it on social media, the people that I follow in the plus industry, because I know that they are going to post all the plus size bodies that was on the red carpet. And that's what I'm here for.
Yes. One award moment that really stands out to me, because I was a teenager then, was when Cameron Manheim won. And she held up the award and said, "This is for the fat girls." And I was just like, it was so startling. I mean, it was amazing, but it was just so, you didn't say those kind of things back then.
Right.
You didn't admit that, you were fat or plus sized. And here she is winning an award and throwing it up in the air saying, "Go fatties." I was like, oh my gosh, there is hope.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting how just because, people look a certain way, and this is not just for plus bodies, but including plus bodies. It's interesting when people look a certain way, is, they're just not included. I don't know, maybe because we don't fit the average standards of society, but, we are just as talented.
Right. Absolutely. What's your favorite part of the award show process?
Oh, the award show process, my favorite part, so much work. I think probably my favorite part might be when I get to the stage of reaching out to the honorees. The honorees are really the pioneers in our industry, right? And so for me, little old me, reaching out to somebody like Gwen Duvall, who's a personal friend of mine, but who has been killing the game for so long, or even Marie Dene, reaching out to her, and Alexandra Bowles, reaching out to her and having a phone conversation was like, hey, I want to give you this award. And for me, that is just so validating. Like little old me giving these people awards who have paved the way for me. So that's probably one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I just think of like how fulfilling that has to feel, just of like,
Yes.
like it's full circle.
Yeah. Yep.
How cool. Are you planning on adding any different categories or expanding categories? I know you said you kind of scaled it back down, but is there anything that's just kind of like, ooh, that seems like it's kind of becoming a thing? I thought like TikTok, like who's going to be like the new TikTok star or something like that,
So, yes and no. What I really want to do is, and this is probably in not the near future, maybe a few years from now, because, we just have to make it make sense. But what I really want to do, I would like to add more categories and just have those categories done online and then have them attend the show to personally give them the awards. But the whole process just to be like an online thing rather us just giving out 50 awards on the day of the show. That's my thought process, but it's just having to iron it all out and make it make sense and then just building it into the production itself, which is already a big thing.
Right. It makes me think of the Oscars, how they have like the more like technical awards before,
Yeah.
the night before or whatever it is. That makes sense. Like because I can't even imagine how much effort and work goes into coordinating a full award show and like executing it and making
Yeah.
sure that, all those pieces. And it's so having 50 categories. Yeah, that would be a little overwhelming for
It
one night.
is. And so one thing is, I said before that where I want to be, my goal is where I want to be, right? And so in order to get to where you want to be, you have to kind of mimic what they're doing, so to speak, right? Not really reinventing the wheel, but what is the mainstream awards shows doing, and how can we do that as well, so that when we do get to mainstream, they don't have to say, well, you have to change X, Y, and Z. So just kind of following or mimicking their model, so to speak. So, and then the other thing is with one of the reasons why I don't feel like I'm just ready to do it yet, because again, what we're doing right now is just, it takes a full year for the production itself. We pretty much start the day after the award show ends and we start planning for the next show. So it is a lot. And I know a lot of people say they look at the categories and they're like, where do I fit in? And so there are some people I know that are left out right now, but you won't be left out forever. Support now,
Right.
and we will build that.
Yeah, I was thinking, first of all, Cameron Manheim won the Emmy in 1998, Best Supporting Actress.
Nice.
And I was thinking about, there's a lot of fat comedians. And of
Oh,
course,
yeah.
a lot of fat dance groups and like that put on dance events, at least here in the Bay Area. And I'm like, I could see that those being really cool categories in the future. And then,
well, we have entertainer already.
Yeah, that's right. You do.
Mm-hmm. I tried to generalize them as much as I possibly could,
sure,
to where people did not feel left out. But I know that there are still some missing links.
You can't ever make everybody happy all the way. I was going to tell you too. You said it starts the next day, because at the Oscars they say that, yeah, the next day the planning's already beginning. And, all of the award shows, it takes a year.
Yeah. I mean, and technically, I'm already planning some aspects now for next year anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'd imagine you're kind of always calibrating,
Yes.
of like, this is happening. Okay, let's adjust here or let's change that. Or, oh, this vendor isn't available anymore. We got to find somebody new or,
Yep.
I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because things happen.
What would you say is the most difficult part of the award process?
The most difficult part is the nomination part. The process, both the nomination and the voting part, because there's so many great people, right? So then you have to narrow it down. And that's the most difficult part. Now, although I don't fully take part in both processes, I still have to oversee and make sure everything is running smooth. So I see a lot of the nominations that come in and I'm like, oh God, that one is my favorite. And then just remaining unbiased as well. So yeah, that's probably the hardest part.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. You're just like, oh, I want everybody to win.
I'm telling you, there are some times that I cried looking at the finalists, like, oh my God, why didn't so and so make it into here? Like, gotta remain unbiased.
Yeah, and I imagine that's got to be pretty difficult. The more often you're doing this, the more people you're engaging with, and
yes, because I know a lot of people in the industry, and so I have to remove myself from the process because for me, it just becomes personal. So if somebody who I am personally friends with don't win, it's like they looking at me like, girl, I thought we were friends. Like, I can't do that.
like you have some part in saying, like,
right.
oh, this person needs to go forward, or they don't, or yeah.
Right.
And you just naturally fall into being the bad guy in that scenario. And that's
absolutely.
uncomfortable for everybody.
Absolutely. People talked about me, I don't want to be a friend anymore.
So you have some new sponsors I saw.
Yes. I like when I say smaller brands, right? Because I don't typically like saying smaller brands, but, brands that are not corporate, that are in our industry who believe in the award show and want to support it. That to me, and we still have more sponsors that we have not even announced yet. I'm trying to, phase them out little by little rather than just dropping them all at one time and just giving people, their moment to just enjoy that social media post and engagement before I drop more people. But there are more people who want to support the award show, and I'm happy. I'm appreciative.
Is Shapely a new company?
No. So Shapely is not a new company. They've been out for a little while. They just went through a rebrand. And I met them a few years ago. A couple of years ago, I met them. One of the models that live in Florida, Heidi, she came up to New York and she reached out to me and she was like, hey, I'm going to be in New York. I'd love to have dinner or whatever, right? So we went to dinner. Before we went to dinner, she was like, oh, is it okay? I'm staying with my friend so-and-so. Is it okay if I bring her? And I was like, yeah, sure. The more the merrier. So that's when I met Aya, the founder of Shapely. And, we got to talking. We stayed in touch. She had an event and she invited me to her event. So me and my VP went. We enjoyed ourselves. Then we had some business conversations afterwards, because we had questions. We had a business meeting, and just like that business meeting just like flourished into all these amazing ideas. And it was like, how can we work together? And then, finally we sat down and just ironed everything out and was like, hey, this is what I can offer. This is what I can offer. We just came together and just formed this partnership that I'm so proud of.
That's awesome.
That's the kind of stuff that lights my fire. I love seeing how we can help each other, how we can have our alliances, how we can promote one another. We all have
Absolutely.
to help each other. Rising tide lifts all boats. I love it. And I love all the business part with the brainstorming and spitballing and trying to figure out how is everybody going to fit together. That sounds like something I would just love. It sounds like a good time.
Yes. It was amazing. Her and Aya and Toya, both of them are just amazing individuals, very smart, and just learning what they do outside of the industry. And they are so smart. I mean, just brilliant individuals outside of the industry and in. So I enjoy our partnership right now. And there's so much more to come from that partnership. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
And your own magazine is one of your sponsors too. You're helping sponsor the industry awards,
Oh,
right?
well, you know what? It's a no-brainer. When I started the Full Figure Industry Awards, I tried to leave them separate. I tried. And even my team said it to me. They were like, that's impossible. And I was like, oh, it's possible. I could do it. But because people know me for QSM, it's like they just automatically put the two together. And they continuously do it. And so people kept saying, the fire is presented by Queen Size Magazine. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not. And then you know what? After year 2, I just gave in. I was like, okay, it's the fire is presented by QSM. Like, okay. So yeah, of course, yeah, we have to be sponsors.
Well, you have to tell us about the magazine.
Oh yes, fun story about Queen Size Magazine. So this is actually my second magazine, right? The first magazine I started, it was called Royal Circuit. And the reason why I got into publication itself is because for some reason, when I was younger, I loved my handwriting. This is where it all started. As little Tawana, just writing, I loved my handwriting. And so I just got into the habit of writing. And then I would write stories. And then I just loved writing. So I was like, oh, I want to write for a magazine, right? Because me being little Tawana, it's like, I was little big Tawana though. I didn't pick up magazines and see people like me in publications, right? So it was like, oh, I can write for a publication, right? And then I can start bringing all the bigger people in, right? That was my goal. This was 12-year-old Tawana. That was my dream. But the dream of writing for a publication just stayed with me as I got older. I wrote 2 books, but I still wanted the publication. So I was like, oh, let me just start my own when I became an adult. And I started the Royal Circuit. And the Royal Circuit was all about the circuit community, the bike clubs, the social clubs, all about that. But a year into doing that, I realized that, that's just not my demographic. That's not what I loved. After a year of interviewing 10 biker clubs, 20 social clubs, it was like, okay, what else? What else can I do with this? And it was like, there was nowhere else I can go with it because it wasn't my passion. And so I had to find something if I was going to stay in the publication realm. It had to be something that was personal to me. And I was like, okay, I'm plus. Maybe I'll start a plus size publication, right? And so that's what I did. And Queen Size Magazine was always called Queen Size Magazine. It started out as just lifestyle. There was no fashion or nothing in it. It was just lifestyle. And it gave a platform for plus size women to just tell how amazing they are in their plus size bodies. And then, of course, that kind of evolved. We brought in fashion because one of my writers was like, oh, we should introduce fashion into the magazine, because she was a model. And I was like, yeah, you go right ahead. Like, that's your column. Because Tawana does not do fashion. But, her name was Dawn, and she started the plus size column, and it just evolved. And then later on, and probably, I think, like 9 years in, it became co-ed when the Big and Tall started to bloom. So now it's a, lifestyle and fashion magazine for plus size men and women.
That's so cool. There's nothing like having a physical copy of a magazine in your hand and just perusing through it. It's just, it hits different, And so
it does. And you know what? Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, we ceased the print copies, of course, because, people were spraying down their mail and stuff like that. So it was like, we don't want people to get their publications, spray it down. And even though it comes wrapped in plastic, you never know. Before it got into plastic, people's mind is like somebody else touched it. So it was like, let's stop with the print issues for now until life. But then we realized that most of our readership came from online. And so we just never went back to print. And it makes me sad because I love the print, but we never went back to it.
I don't know how old you are, but I'm 55. And I've told this story before on the podcast, but something that sort of clicked in my brain when I was about 12 or 13 is I went to shopping at Lane Bryant, where they sell older lady office clothes, because where else am I going to shop? And that's my mom's only place she knew where to take me is Lane Bryant. And so I looked like an old lady in my clothes when I was 12, but hey, they fit. But I saw at the register a BBW magazine. It was called BBW. And that was before BBW got sort of co-opted by the porn industry. But I was like, big, beautiful women. Wait, what? It was like, psh, holy crap. So are you old enough to ever remember that magazine?
I've heard of it, never read it.
Yeah.
Never really been a fan of the BBW term.
Yeah, like I said, this was like, I'm talking like 30 years ago before that term got to be something different.
Yeah. I've never read BBW. I have heard of it. I've seen it, but never really picked it up.
There was one recently that I was writing a column for that magazine. What was that called? Can't remember now. It was like in the last 5 or 6 years when I had my boutique, and she was focusing on, and you could find the magazine at like Barnes and Nobles and stuff. But it was
it Fabulous?
That's it, Fabulous, yeah.
Yep. Fabulous was, they don't put out print issues anymore.
No.
And to be honest with you, I don't think they still publish at all.
I don't think so, no. Yeah, it's too bad though. It was really great. It was exciting. I would go to Barnes and Noble and take it and put it out at all the different Barnes and Nobles, put it at the front.
Yeah.
And people see it.
Yeah, I almost went the route of going on newsstands, but the overhead on that is crazy, and the return on it is even crazier. So I was like, you know what? Let me just continue doing what I'm doing over here.
Well, and I'm telling my age, of the needing a print magazine because it hits different, but for this newer generation and a lot of people that are much more tech savvy than I am, it's cool to do that and have it online and be able to skim through it. And yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense that would be the new way of going. And also you're helping the environment by not printing a bunch of paper.
True. But I do miss it though. I miss holding the magazine. I have every issue in print that I put out, going back to the very first issue. So I love picking up the magazine and just flipping through it and reading it. It brings me so much joy, but can't do that now.
It's like a Kindle versus a book.
Right.
As much as I love the smell of a book, and I love the smell of a bookstore, and I love the feel of the paper in the book.
Yeah.
Kindle is so damn easy. You can even read your Kindle on your phone.
I know. My VP he keeps trying to talk me back into going into print, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a ton of work. So I kind of gotten used to the digital era, and I don't know that I want to put in that much work again, especially with starting, the fires. It's like I have more time to do other things.
Speaking of other things, when you aren't planning a massive award show or writing a magazine, what do you do for fun? Or like, what are the things that you like to do?
It's interesting. I still work in corporate America. I still have, I call them my private sponsors. That's what I call them because they fund everything else. So I work in human resources for a large health system. That's one of the things I do for fun. I have 2 sons who are amazing and keep me busy. I mean, they're big, but they're still my babies. I recently, a couple of years ago, got into soap making. So I make soaps as well, which is a lot of fun for me because it literally awakens my creativity. I never thought I was very creative, but making soaps, it's like it does. I get to do so many different patterns, mix colors and stuff like that. So that's my happy place. And I love making soaps. So, soap making is one of the things that I do for fun. And, every now and again when I don't feel like doing anything at all, I sit and binge watch Netflix.
What are you watching now?
Oh, so I have recently become addicted to Korean shows. Yes, they are amazing. Right now, I'm watching this one called Celebrity, which is really good. I mean, you have to start watching Korean shows. I mean, it's just, they are so good. So now my Netflix algorithm is like, that's all they do is recommend Korean.
I did watch Squid Games.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That was crazy.
That was really crazy.
Their time. It was really intense. Tawana, do you sell your soaps on Etsy or anywhere like that?
So I sell my soaps right now all by word of mouth, right? Because for me, this is my problem. I'm scared to get too big with the soaps because I'm scared that I'm not going to have time to fulfill all these orders. So for me, it's just like word of mouth. I do, souvenirs for baby showers when people contact me. I do holiday soaps. I do for events. Like right now, I just did soaps for Wendevel's Silver Fox event. So she can put in her bags. But I'm getting there. I will be online soon.
You need to make like trying to think of what they call them, the swag bags or whatever.
Yes.
Like it's going to have your magazine. It's going to have soap.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
A lady of all trades. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So one of the things, that kind of comes up is like in our fat community, it's difficult to navigate from time to time. And one of the things that we try to talk about is like, what are the gaps that you see in our community that need to be addressed or need to be recognized that just aren't?
I think one of the biggest gaps is probably men's fashion. They are where we started. And so you can buy like urban wear, but stylish clothes for men, I think that's a missing link there. And I think more brands need to start tapping into the big and tall market.
Yeah, I only think of King Size. I think that's like the only brand that I can think of for guys.
There's King Size, there's DXL,
DXL.
there's MVP Collections, which is more of urban wear anyway. One of our honorees, Mike Moss, who owns Big Man Culture, he does suits for big and tall men as well. There's a couple of brands that does them, but overall for the big and tall, I want to see more. I think we all want to see more. The men want to see more.
Yeah, I regularly hear men share that, especially when it comes to fashion and industry of like, modeling and that kind of thing too, that you just don't see that same representation
Nope.
On the male side of the coin.
Nope. We need more of that. We need to see more. And so, us, the plus industry is now like really pushing for that because we know the struggle. We've been there already. So it's like, how can we now help the big and tall community get to where we are now?
I always say that there's a mall here that's where I would regularly shop. There's 150 stores to buy clothes. 2 of them have stuff for me, even though people of size make up 70% of the population. But there is 0 for men of size. Like nothing. There's nothing.
That's true.
Pitiful. It's so pitiful.
That is very true. When I think about the mall closest to me, they have a DXL there recently over the last few years, though. But other than that, there are stores in there where you can find maybe a couple of pair of pants, maybe a couple of shirts. But other than that, no.
Yeah, it's too bad. So I want to know more about what happens the night of the awards when you give out the awards. Is it like a party feeling? It's like a Academy Awards kind of feeling? Is there music? Like what else is going on?
So, oh my God, that makes me excited to answer that question because the day of the awards show, it's so much excitement. It's like being at the Grammys, and that's what people describe it as. I love to hear that. They feel like they are at the Oscars or at the Grammys because we have that whole red carpet experience where people come in and they're interviewed on red carpets. We have photographers that's taking pictures. Specifically, that first hour of our VIP hour, where it's just for our honorees, our nominees, and sponsors and special guests. So that's invite only. And that's where we have our reception and the red carpet and stuff that's going on, which is amazing. And then everybody's in the auditorium and seated and looking amazing. And then we start giving out these awards, and, the speeches is always what gets me. And, I'm now doing fireside chats with a lot of our nominees for this year. And, that's one of the things that people talk about the most the night of is the speeches and how heartfelt and moving they are. So many people was just in there crying, just listening to the speeches. It's amazing. I don't know. It's probably one of the best feelings that my first year, when it was all over, when I tell you, when it was time to say goodnight and I was on stage and it ended, when I tell you I cried like a baby, I cried like a baby. So everybody got to see my ugly cry that night because it was so good. I'm just glad nobody got it on video.
It is, but it's like your baby. It's like you had a baby, and right? It's all that letdown from all the anxiety and all the endorphins trying to get it all together. And then it's like, you're so proud of everybody and just like, oh, it's emotional.
Yes. And it was just over. And, one of the biggest fears as a producer is that nobody's going to show up to your event, right? So that was one of my fears too. It's like, oh my God, are people going to show up? Even though, we had a sold out show. And every year that we've had the show, we've had a sold out show. But still, it was seeing all the people in the room seated and just, it was overwhelming. Such a good feeling. And every year, I still get the same feeling. And I don't cry anymore, but it still feels good.
Have you stuck with the same sort of trophy look every year? It's always the same?
Yes. Yeah. Our trophy stays the same every year. And that's one of the things I wanted. Just, the consistency of the trophy. This is our trophy. Stays right there. So when I'm doing my videos, well, you can't see it now, but
it's beautiful. It would look lovely in my office.
Right? No, no pressure.
Say, don't make her be the bad guy. We just talked about that.
Right.
I see a space right there on your desk.
Exactly. It's gorgeous. Is it crystal?
It is.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
And I actually have another one right here too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. People will be able to see it.
Yeah. And that gold one is the one that I won from Full Figure Fashion Week in 2018 for Magazine of the Year. That was amazing.
Did Full Figure Fashion Week happen this year?
So Gwen retired Full Figure Fashion Week because she is this big time superstar now. It was her
amazing.
time to work on herself. Mm-hmm. So, she's just on the big screens and, modeling. She's doing her. So I'm not mad I'm mad Full Figure Fashion Week is retired. And every time I talk to her, I'm like, so have you thought about it? No, she's focusing on Silver Fox.
Good for her.
Yeah.
She's quite amazing. I went to Full Figure Fashion Week once when I had my boutique. And that's where I got to meet Marcy in person and Marie in person. And then what's the other lady that works with Marcy so often? And I met Alexandra. I met so many people at Full Figure Fashion Week. But since then, it seems like people who are in the fat world have all these different events now, like fat camps, fat day camps, fat hikes, fat swimming events. It's like the amount of events for people size now is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no matter where you look, you find someplace where you feel like you belong. And I think that's what, we try to do for each other. I don't go to the pool. I'm not a pool girl, but I have been to pools. I've been to beaches. And, that feeling you get when you feel like people are just looking at you like, why did she wear that? You go to events where everybody looks like you and nobody's judging anybody. And that's where I feel like I belong.
It's so freeing. It's different when you're able to be around people that have shared experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They know my story. I know their story. It's like, so we can coexist and without the judgment or anything. And, for people, let me stop saying people, but for us, when we see each other and we're just like, yes, girl, you look amazing. It's like, it comes from a place of love and not, there's not some undermining tone there. Like,
whenever I run into a fat person in the wild, I'm like, I just want to be like, hey, I see you, but I don't know if they're going to think I'm weird. But I'm like, oh, look how stylish you are. I love your outfit. Or you look, especially when people are like really put together.
I do it all the time. If I'm driving and I'm at a light and I see, somebody who, girl, you look amazing in that dress. And, and it makes us feel good that we see each other,
Yes. So awesome. Communities. We talk about that a lot on the show. Community is so important.
It is. Extremely.
Speaking of community, have you heard about FatCon?
I have. So it's coming up, or did it pass? Because I remember talking to Aya about it.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's going to be in January of next year. Yeah.
Sweet.
But we've been hearing about it. We just interviewed Hux, who is one of the co-founders of it. And yeah, just exciting. And hearing, that there's going to be a convention a safe space where a lot of fatties can get together and, just talk and be, share and learn and buy stuff. It's just going to
I love it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're moving in the right direction here.
Tawana, you should think about applying to be a speaker.
Oh,
now y'all know.
No. Okay.
Here's the thing. Yeah. I think, Murph, you said that you've heard me do the lives and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so shy.
You wouldn't get that from it.
I know. And it's because I know, like, once I'm in that situation where I know that everybody's going to be looking at me, like, you have to turn the shyness off. Like, you don't want people to keep rewinding and looking at this video or this episode or whatever and say, oh my gosh, she's just so shy. So I have to kind of turn it off. But right before I'm telling you, I be sweating like, oh God, I hope I don't mess up. And then afterwards, when it's over, I'm like, phew, glad that's over. But I have done some speaking engagements and I'm starting to get more comfortable with it, but it's still frightening for me.
And totally understandable. I mean, any kind of con or large event where you've got to speak in front of people, it's different than being on a podcast or on an Instagram Live. It's like, oh, there aren't eyes staring back at me,
right? Yes,
which can be a really big deterrent.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah.
You just have such a great story, and I think that people would they would love to hear how you got to where you are and how it came about. The magazine in 2011 to here we are in 2023. The FIAs and the magazine are still going strong, which is pretty impressive because it's not easy, especially through a freaking pandemic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And even though, my VP tells me all the time, he's like, so you built the company, right? We do everything that you say. It's like, why can't you talk about it? So it's like, yeah, because everybody's looking at me. The first time I had to do an on-camera interview, I did it for Avenue some years ago. And they sent a crew to my house with cameras to do this interview. I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready. As soon as he put that camera in my face, I was like, ooh, what's my writing? It's like, oh my God.
Been there, done that. I love it. Yeah, it's different. Huh? It's such like right there in your face. The first time for me, I was like, can't you put the camera in a different angle? Because they're like shooting like from up. I'm like, I'm going to look like Jabba the Hutt. I'm like, higher, put the camera higher. They're like this close to my face. I'm like, you guys are going to see my nose hairs. You're going to see my, They didn't care. They did not care at all. I was like, never mind. Just now I tell myself, it's not how I look. It's about the message. So just don't worry about it, Crystal. It's about the message.
Right. Yeah. But that was pretty frightening for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then when it was like, all right, cut. But I finally got through it.
It's like when somebody goes in for an interview, like the panel knows that you're nervous. They know that you're going to flub and, have some issue. But for you, it feels like there's the spotlight on me and everybody's watching and I'm going to fail epically.
Yeah. And, hypocritically, I do when I have to interview people, right? I tell them, oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't be shy. We're just going to talk like two girlfriends or, like we homegirl, homeboy. Like, it's like, why are you telling people? I try, but then I laugh at myself because I'm like, yeah, somebody has had to give me that story too.
Yep. We're all a part of it. It happens. I think we wouldn't be human if we didn't have that experience.
Right. Yeah, it is the human condition for sure. Wonderful.
I need a little bit of a build up whenever that happens, right? Like, it's like I can't be shoved right into it. And I let me sit there and answer a few things and feel like I got my footing underneath me. Yeah. And then, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Like, give me a minute. Yeah. But, it's fun. It's all fun. And as long as you're doing it with somebody who knows what they're doing and not really looking to you to just like hold the whole thing, like this right here. I feel like I'm just, chatting. We're just on the phone, just chatting or Zoom, just chatting. And that's what you want your interviews to feel like.
It does. It removes the self-consciousness and it becomes more authentic because it's just a conversation.
Exactly.
And so it's all the extra that, your brain wants to put on there as like, oh, and they're doing this and they're watching you and they're looking. And it's like, no, there's no judgment. We're just having a conversation, but you got to ease into that. It's like, nobody wants to be shoved into the deep end of the pool. They want to walk into the pool.
Right. Let me take my time. Yeah. But I like doing interviews. I love getting to know people. Not so much people interviewing me, but this is the hypocritical side of me. I'm usually the one that's interviewing other people. Like the last interview I did, I won the girl. I was like, listen, I might take over your interview. And if I start to do that, just dial me back.
Totally relate to that one. I'm like, oh, she's talking about me.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable, though. I think it's just one of those things, Well, I mean, I could keep you here all night and ask you a million questions, but you're 3 hours ahead of us in New York time, and I'm sure that you're like, let's go. I got to get back to my day job. But I have a feeling this won't be the last time that we have a conversation about the Full Figure Industry Awards or your magazine or your soap making. I have a feeling you'll be back on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I felt like I was just part of the podcast. Like, who we interviewing y'all?
That's exactly it. That's what we want you to feel like.
Ashley was saying, what kind of questions would you ask us, Murph and me, if you were interviewing us? It's a good question. I know, right?
Yeah, okay.
I know we're going to wrap this up soon. I just want to make sure I mention that too.
Oh, that was my warning for like, don't go too far into this, right? So for me, I would probably ask you, like, what do you do other than why did you start the podcast? What do you do outside of podcasting? Who are you outside of podcasting?
It's a really good question, deep question. So I'm a licensed marriage family therapist, and I oversee a behavioral health program for a healthcare entity that spans 4 counties. So my day job is quite stressful and busy, but I love it. And I get to serve my community in ways that my community and multiple other communities in a way that, I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to have an impact in mental health and substance use treatment, and having a full staff to be able to provide that level of care to patients and get them in for services and hopefully get them back to feeling well as quickly as possible is just super fulfilling. And that's my day job, but I like to paint, like you said, mixing color and just kind of getting to do other little doodly things. Like, I'm not a creative person. I'm a very like by the structure of whatever it is you tell me, step 1, step 2, So it's the only time I feel like I get to, kind of think outside of the box and just do weird stuff is when I'm painting. So
nice.
That's my go-to. And I'm a cat mom. I've got 4 cats.
Ah.
I spend a lot of time with cats.
Sweet. And I can go deeper into, I'm not going to, because, the follow-up question is usually for me, because I like to get to know people. And I feel like for most people who are in careers long-term, there's personal connections to those things, right? For me, I work in healthcare. Like there's a personal connection to me and why I work where I work. So that would have been my follow-up question, but no pressure to answer because I told you I would take over the interview, Crystal. I don't know why you asked me.
It's funny.
I struggle with my own mental health issues. I have obsessive compulsive disorder. I'm recovered eating disorders, anorexia. So it's always just been something very prevalent in my life. I have a lot of family members that have mental health disorders, whether or not they agree with that. But, it's always been a present issue. And so when I started to think about becoming a sex therapist, because that's what initially I wanted to do, becoming a marriage family therapist really just kind of filled that niche. And I was like, I don't have to go into this other realm and have this other internship and all these other things. Like I can still have the sex interest, and help people with their relationships, but also just deal with mental health disorders.
Wow. I love that. All right, Crystal, you're up next.
First and foremost, fat person, fat liberationist, fat activist, and I just love my fat community. My day job, I do electrolysis, so permanent hair removal. Mostly women, like you said, very personal, developing a lot of relationships. I see 6 to 8 people a day, and I have lots of amazing clients, and some of my clients are in the process of transitioning genders. So it's a very big privilege for me to be a part of their process. I get to help out, but also, it's a lot of talking. Sometimes I feel like a therapist. People, even my therapist that used to be my therapist, who now comes to me when she leaves, she says, "Thanks for the hour of therapy, Crystal." And I go, "I underbilled you. I should add on another $150 to that hour." But yeah, it's therapy for me too. Cause like Murph said, I also have some, depression and anxiety issues and a lot of experience around addiction and recovery. I'm not personally an addict or in recovery, but I know a million people who are, and a lot of my family and friends are. So for whatever reason that comes up a lot, people just tell me everything. I have cash register ladies telling me that they poop their pants. People just tell me everything. And so I don't know what it is about my face where people feel like they can tell me everything, which they can. I've been in the business of selling sex toys since 2003, so 20 years. So a lot of talking about sex and recovery and drugs and alcohol is just, I don't know, it's just how it happens for me. But I wouldn't change a thing.
I love that for y'all. I love that. I loved getting to know y'all personally. I connect with people on personal levels, which is why I tend to just go a lot deeper than the surface, like who you are and what you do. Okay, that's cool. But no, really, who are you? So for me, I form personal connections with people. And I just literally had this conversation earlier today with Tamara, and we were talking about brands. And I was like, for me, I don't shop this brand. I don't shop that brand. And for me, it's because I don't have a personal connection. I don't connect to your brand. So that's why I don't shop your brand. So for me, there has to be a connection there for me to continuously come back and support your brand. So with that being said, I will continuously come back and listen to y'all.
Well, it speaks to your HR background. I mean, being in human resources, you have to be an advocate for the people that you serve, that you work with. And so then you have to know like the next level and what it is they're experiencing and what's, their story, because you're their advocate and making sure that they're able to do their job. So that totally fits with your personality. I love it.
Interestingly enough, I've been working in healthcare for well over 20 years, right? I know I only look like I'm 20 something, so I came out of the womb working in healthcare. When I was born, they gave me my ID, but no, seriously, I only just started working in healthcare 2 years ago. So it was a position that kind of fell in my lap. I've always worked in the medicine department all those years. and then transitioning it into HR was not something that I knew that I needed. But once I got in, I realized how much I needed. I realized how much my personality fit that role. So it was just what I didn't know I needed.
I love that kind of story where it's just like, ding, all the stars align, everything works out.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
Well, Tawana, it's been so much fun talking with you. We love learning about you and learning about the awards, and we're beyond excited and honored to be nominated. An amazing group of podcasters. Like, wow, I love all of those podcasts, and so it'll be whoever wins is going to be an amazing podcaster. But
yes,
on our show, we usually end by asking our interviewee, what is her favorite romance toy? What's your favorite sex toy? And I should have warned you. I'm sorry, I forgot to warn you that we asked this question a lot. But do you have a favorite?
Oh my God! Oh, okay. Fix my glasses, right? Yeah, this is where people are really going to start to look at me differently. But I think it would probably be, now I don't know like the actual names of these things, honey. I just look at one and be like, oh, that's cute. Let me try that. Probably it would be like the bullet. Honestly, true transparency. I've never shared this story with anybody, but my very first orgasm came from that. And I've been looking for the orgasm ever since.
Let me tell you, you're in really good company because that happens to a lot of people. And I tell people, this $13 vibrator will change your whole life.
Yes.
For real. So
yes.
For some people, it's their first orgasm. For some people, it's how to figure out how to continuously have an orgasm, how to have an orgasm with a partner, how to have an orgasm with penetration. I mean, the bullet to me, and almost every toy starts with a bullet and they build around it. So
yes,
it's the perfect toy.
Yes. Yep, that would probably be my favorite.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes.
Sure. Now I don't need nobody in my DM, okay?
Let's give you a free one.
Blue is my favorite color.
Thank you so much, Tawana. We're really excited to get to know you better and really excited. And thank you for the time. And I know you stayed up really late for us, and I appreciate that. And I just want to say to our listeners, make sure you go to BigSexyChat.com. Make sure you get on our newsletter list because that's where you're going to learn about our giveaways and our events coming up and our podcast that we just dropped. So BigSexyChat.com is where you can sign up for our newsletter. I send 2 a month. What else, Murph?
We have left Twitter and we are now on Threads. Mm-hmm. So we're at Big Sexy Chat on all of the platforms except for Twitter because Elon can suck it.
Yes, he can. Agreed. Thank you.
And you can email us at sexy@bigsexychat.com if you have questions or if you want to share stories or need life advice or I don't know, whatever. That's where you can send us a message. And we will include all of Tawana's information so that you can connect with her. But do you want to shout out like any specific sites that people can find you or that you want them to know about right now?
Sure. So the date for the Full Figure Industry Awards this year is November 4th. Our website is theffias.com, THEFFIAS.com. All of the links to our social media platforms is there, but pretty much the Full Figure Industry Awards across the board. And I do want to say something to y'all. I hope that you ladies are coming to the show on November 4th. I want to see y'all there. And I do want y'all to do a ticket giveaway for your listeners for the show.
Okay, sure.
However y'all want to do it, and just get back to me. And as a matter of fact, nobody likes to go to a show by themselves. They can bring a guest.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tawana.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody. Excited. Thanks to our community. We're always so grateful for all of your listeners, all of your reviews on anywhere, social media, on Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. They're super helpful. And I'm just going to sign off by saying, see you later, alligator.
After a while, crocodile.
See you later, butterfly.
So where can you find your favorite fatties? You can find us at BigSexyChat.com, on all the social medias at BigSexyChat, on Twitter, BigSexyChatPod, And Crystal, how can they reach us?
Oh, Murph, the best way to reach us is by email, which is sexy@bigsexychat.com. And remember to like, subscribe, and share, please.